So, Valery Ann, welcome to the programme. Hi there, how are you?
I'm fine.
Now, you've got a lovely version, even more laid back than the one I know by Sandy Denny. Because you're taking it back even more, haven't you? Slightly more laid back, and what a lovely version that is.
Well, it's just the way it came out.
And it's just you and your guitar, or somebody on the guitar?
Actually, it's Pete Goodall on the guitar.
All right, but anyway, it's just guitar and you singing.
Yep.
It's very, very sort of emotional, that feel you've got there. It's a lovely track. I know it's a favourite of yours. It's actually a favourite of mine as well.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. We share the same music, at least some of it.
Now, you were in the Settlers. You joined in the 70s and 76, I think, didn't you?
That's right. Indeed, it was quite a learning curve as well, because I'd been a solo act around clubs and folk clubs as well as cabaret clubs. Most of the work I was doing was South Wales, except for the folk clubs, which were a little bit earlier on in Surrey. In fact, Sandy, who you mentioned, Sandy Denny,
yep.
Also used to do the folk clubs at the same time that I did, which dates me a bit, except I was that little bit younger. I was still at school, and she was at that time known as Joanne Kelly. So there's one for you.
Right. Now tell us about the Settlers, because I mean obviously they were sort of earlier than that, and they were really having hits in the late 60s, I guess, or the early 70s, weren't they?
They were best known, as I learned very quickly, in the late 60s, early 70s. In the early 70s they had a hit with the Lightning Tree, which was the theme music for Follyfoot. And I had to learn that, going in the back of a van, going to a gig, down in Taunton, of all places.
How did that get? That was sort of a da-da-da-da-da-da, something like that, wasn't it?
You got it.
Not very well, but I do remember it vaguely, yes.
Oh,
I mean, I certainly knew that track, yeah, absolutely. So, and what got you involved in them then? Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, it was a sort of culmination of various things. They were looking for somebody who had a folk background, but also was used to doing the cabaret circuits. And at the time, I just left uni, and I was doing exactly that, the cabaret circuits and folk clubs when I got the chance, although I started really as folk. And, well, we sort of all got together, and that was it. I'd got the job. Except for I did expect to be joining them later in the year, and I got this phone call, I believe it was on a Wednesday, from Mike Jones, their leader, saying, can you join a little bit earlier? To which I thought probably a month or so earlier. And I said, well, when? And he said, now. Oh.
Yes.
And quite honestly, I had a marvellous time. We toured all over the place. We were obviously topping the bill, whereas in my own right before, I was doing some of the same venues, but I wasn't topping the bill. I was always the opening act. That's the way it goes.
Are they still going as a group now? Because you're not in them now, are you?
No, I'm not in them.
Are they still together?
Time. No, unfortunately. Mike Jones passed on 2-3 years ago. In fact, if anyone wants to look on Wikipedia, they can see all about the Settlers and see a little bit mentioned about me, but it's a sort of afternote, but it also mentions him passing on, which I must confess was how I learnt the sad news. I don't know what's happened to the other people, but the personnel used to change a lot anyway, so...
Okay, now tell us about you're working, or you're shortly going to be working on releasing an album, aren't you? So tell us about that.
Yes, Pete Goodall, who is playing guitar on the track that you've just played, he was a recording manager who, let's start that one again. When I was with the Settlers, we recorded a song called Which Away Billy. Pete wrote it and produced it. And we met up again just, 18 months or so ago in rural Herefordshire. Now this was quite an unlikely happening, because we'd originally worked all those years ago in London. Well, trying to cut the long story short, Pete and I have been working on an album of my songs, as I've been writing the last 6 or 7 years in a little studio of my own at home. This is while my family grew up. Anyway, Pete liked what I was writing, we were so surprised to find one another again that that was it. We got into the studio, and we've actually got all the tracks down for an album called Rolling Road that should be out in the spring. It's just being mixed and mastered at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, tell us how to find out more about yourselves and you in particular, and maybe we can get a hold of that as well.
Yes, there's www.speakeasyrecordings.net. Now, that's a bit of a mouthful, but the easiest one to find is I've got a website coming up, www.valeryann.co.uk.
All right, then.
I've also got a Facebook saying Valery
go on
Ann.
then.
Just Valery Ann.
Yeah, okay.
Musicians. So if anyone wants to go on that and click like, I will be their friend forever.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us on the programme today,
Thank
Valery.
you. Okay.
Cheers.
Right, bye.